you don't realise how big one of those animals are. Even if you see one in the zoo, you've got no fucking idea how big that animal is until it's 10 yards and there's no cage between you and it, and it's coming for you like that. Yeah. And I can still see, as she was racing at me like that, like they full on lunge like that. As she was lunging, I can still see her hair going like boof, and every time she hit the ground, her hair would go boom, boom.
G'day ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the podcast. My name's Isaac Butterfield, and this podcast right here couldn't be possible without the amazing people that have brought you this episode, the good human beings at Life Cycle. Life Cycle takes mushrooms from the natural world, turns them into extracts for you, delivers them to your door, and allows you to harness the natural energy that comes from the earth. People have been consuming these since the dawn of time, and I've been doing it now for about 4 months, and I absolutely love them. I have the lion's mane and the cordyceps mushrooms in the morning to fire me up and get me into a positive rhythm throughout the day where I try and achieve every single thing I want for that day. In fact, I've tested the lion's mane extract, and I tested it with a sleeping device. It's given me I'm not sure of the percentage, but I think it's about 20%. Now, I'm not a scientist, okay, so don't freak out, but it's given me an extra about 20% REM sleep per night, which is actually massive considering that's the part of sleep where you repair and you dream and all these type of things. Now, lion's mane has shown that throughout studies throughout the last 20 or so years. So that's a really interesting piece of information that you can actually read, take on board, and implement within your life. So lion's mane, absolutely perfect. Cordyceps, fantastic. Reishi, turkey tail for the... Life Cycle is just absolutely incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, if you head to their website right now, lifecycle.com, you can go straight to the biohacking kit, get your hands on that. And do not forget to use the discount code in the coupon section, BUTTER20, to get 20% off.
Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is an absolute cracker. So make sure you get down below, subscribe so you don't miss any of these. Make sure you check out the Butterfield Clips channel. If you can't watch this entire thing or listen to this entire thing, you can always just digest the little clips. The link is down below. We're also on Spotify and iTunes if you want to listen on the way to work, at the gym, while you're rooting your missus, whatever you want to do, ladies and gentlemen, you can do that. But this episode is with an absolute Australian legend, with my friend Adam Greentree, the bow hunter extraordinaire. The chats that we have in this episode are absolutely incredible. He talks about some death-defying feats, some moments in his hunting life, his expeditions across the world, and some of them are anxiety-inducing. They are terrifying. So make sure you stick around for those. Absolutely incredible. This is my chat with my good mate, Adam Greentree, and I hope you enjoy it.
I've got a lot of really nice vegan followers, actually.
Really?
Yeah, don't know how.
What is your relationship with vegans, Adam?
I don't know any personally, like as in family or anything.
Yeah.
But I've got a lot of vegan followers. Well, a lot. There might be like 3, and those 3 keep sending me the same message. But they're just like, just so you know, I'm vegan, but I don't have anything against hunting. They sort of understand it, so it's just their choice.
I have the same with cyclists. There's a few cyclists that follow me, and they're like, I get it's just a joke.
Just a few.
But it's not.
Yeah.
It's dead serious.
It's dead serious.
Fuck you. What's going on?
That's rugged.
Where have you been?
It's just telling the boys I've just been doing family stuff.
You've been all over the country. You just drove back from South Australia.
Yeah, we drove around Australia, and I've just been cleaning the truck up and getting organised, unpacking, yelling at kids, dad stuff.
I was saying to Kim the other day, like, are you guys going to make it back? Because this is like the 5th time you're supposed to do the podcast.
Yeah, I know.
And then she was like, no, you're not going to make it. I was like, okay, cool. No worries at all. And then you were in South Australia. So you've driven from South Australia.
Yeah, we gunned it. So we went up the top way. So we went New South Wales, up through Queensland on the coastline, up to Townsville. Then we cut across through the Northern Territory and up through the Kimberleys in Western Australia. Stopped at my work, which is near Cape Lambert or Wickham or Roebourne, or people know Carafa, I think.
Sure. Yep.
But anyway, like real remote, WA up high. And then we hung out there for a good solid week, 10 days or so. And then we sort of gunned it back. So we went down WA, down to the bottom, then across the Nullarbor into South Australia, and then skip Victoria straight into New South Wales and then straight home.
Jeez, you're everywhere.
Yeah. I think it was 18,000 or 19,000
Fucking
Ks.
hell.
Yeah.
My car's only done 18,000
Has
k's.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to take it for a run.
Yeah,
then.
I fucking do. That's all I do is drive it around here.
The road.
So the first time I met you was somewhere in Newcastle. We were at we went out for breakfast, but I first saw you on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I saw you talking about everything you do in the hunting realm and life in general. And
Some of it. Yeah.
some of it. You went into detail. I think you were talking about the bear incident.
Which one?
Well, the one where you gun jammed.
Oh yeah, the baddest one.
The baddest one, the worstest one. And I saw that and I was like, holy shit, this guy's Australian and crazy. You very rarely see Australians on Rogan's podcast. And then you mentioned you live in Merriweather. I was like, holy shit, that's like 5 minutes from my house. And I reached out through your lovely wife, Kim, and we caught up and you came to my very first comedy show.
Oh, I did, yeah.
In Sydney, the first show of the tour, first hour that I've ever done on stage. And I think you were pretty impressed. So that was nice.
You see me clapping and laughing.
Yeah, just having a great time up the back. And you do some pretty hectic shit. And not intentionally either. Like you go out and you do your treks and your hunting trips and all that type of stuff. It always seems to go back to something just mental happens. Do you talk about the bear thing with the gun and all that type of stuff? Have you talked about that too much, do you think? Because I think a lot of people would like to hear about it.
I don't know. I don't know if I've talked. I usually do something and then I just move on, you know. So it's because you end up making, that's the normal then, you know.
Yeah.
Like getting charged by a bear becomes the normal, and that's why I'm like, which one?
Right.
Because I've done enough of those expeditions now that just ends up becoming a good part of the trip. It's sort of becomes the regular. It sort of becomes the norm. So for me, I talk about it and then just sort of move on. But if you want to talk about it, I'll talk about it.
I mean, I don't know. Do you want to talk about it?
I don't
I'd like to talk about it. I'd like to talk about the bear.
Shit. What do I talk
What
about?
are these bears like? I've never seen a bear.
Well, they've got different attitudes.
Yeah.
So put it that way. There's a place that I hunt in Montana regularly, and that's where they catch all the problem grizzlies and they remove them from, say one moves into a town of Livingston or something like that, or Bozeman, and it becomes a problem bear. They'll capture that bear there and they'll actually release it in one of my favorite hunting spots. So it becomes, that's the real, they're very regular there and they're used to humans. But in saying that, I've never had any issues with bears there. They're all male. I've never seen a female there, because your problem bears are usually a female of cubs. Instinctively, she just wants to protect the cubs. And if you're a threat, then yeah, she's going to try and go you. But
can you tell it's a female straight away, or is it the behaviour?
You can't. And females are fine, but if they've got cubs, if you see a female with cubs, it's like, no, you stay sort of clear.
Yeah.
So anyway, that place has got tons of bears. Every time I go there, I have bears come towards camp or in the camp. I have bears try and steal my kills, so I'll go and shoot an elk. You'll go, you know, elk's such a big animal, it takes a few days to carry and collect all the meat and recover it all. So a bear will end up getting on your kill generally in that time. I've still had no issues there. I've yelled at grizzlies, big grizzlies that have been on a kill and they've ran the other way. And I've had interactions with bears in British Columbia as well, and that's sort of been the same deal. But this particular time I walked through the back of Idaho into Montana. I was trying to get into a spot that I thought wouldn't have a lot of hunters. And that seemed like a pretty good way to do it, is walk through another state, into the back of another state that you couldn't access from Montana or anywhere else. So I did that, and on the walk in, I actually seen a sign that Parks and Wildlife had put up, or Forestry had put up probably, and it said, attention, bear in area with cubs, very aggressive. And I was still another half a day's walk from that sign, like way back, so I was not really thinking about it. I was actually going to a place that had a lot less bears than what I was used to. It was like day 3 or day 4. The end of the day, and I was trying to get back to my camp. I just had a little spy camp on top of the mountain there, and this is all through the Rocky Mountains, so it's all like beautiful, picturesque country. And I was sort of coming up on a slope, and as the slope sort of flattened out, I could tell that I had seen her at the same time she'd seen me. We sort of just both met eyes as I was coming over the ridge, and I sort of just seen this bear's head there like that, and you couldn't tell if it was a male or female, but I was at the point, because I'm like 80, 100 yards away, that I'm like, shit, stop. Like,
how big are we talking?
Grizzly, like a full-grown grizzly. It's got a head on it like that. It's got a big pumpkin head on it, you know. And anyway, I sort of just went one more step because she put her head down, and then I lost sight of her because her head went down. So I had to take like 1 or 2 more steps to sort of get a look over the rise. And I took those couple of steps and looked, and there was a cub at her feet. And straight away I knew, shit, this isn't a good situation to be in. And I had a sidearm on me, but I didn't pull it at the time. And obviously I just hunt with a bow and arrow. That's just for protection. And then she sort of turned and she looked back at me, and then, you know, she's like this big on the rise, you know, and then she just went, and she just stood up on her back legs, and she was fucking giant, you know, she was big. And then by the time, because I seen her drop, and she dropped with speed, like to come straight at me. She went from the stand position straight like that to speed. By the time I grabbed the sidearm off me and pulled it out, she was turning off like at 20 yards away. That's how fast they move.
Fuck.
And I'd been practicing. My buddy Ed, he's a sheriff over there. He's the one that lent me the sidearm, and we'd been practicing and everything. So I'd been practicing drawing and shooting it accurately in a bad position, you know, in a bad situation. And you know, not to big note myself, but I was quick at getting it out. It wasn't like I was slow at getting it out. I just pulled it straight out, and by the time I got it there, she was already turning off 20 yards in front of me. She did a big huff. She turned off, she ran back around, and there was sort of a bit of brush in that there that you couldn't see through. And then she popped out the other side of the brush, and she was back at the cub. And I seen the cub, or it might have been another cub. I don't know if there was 2 or just 1 cub, but I sort of seen a cub disappear, and then I seen a cub back at the tree, and the cub hadn't climbed the tree. Generally, when the female does that, that's like a warning sign to the cubs will shoot up a tree for safety. And the cub was at the bottom of the tree, and she got and sniffed the cub, and then she just come straight at me again. And that's when I was yelling at her, and everyone thought that was hilarious, but it was just instinctively what was coming out of me. You know, I was like,
well, what else do you do?
Yeah, exactly. But
you can't run, because these things are, as you said, extremely quick.
You turn your back on them, you're just in as much trouble, but you're blinded then, you know.
Yeah.
And I was yelling at her like, fucking ease up, you fucking mole, ease up, like that. And then I thought
what
she
else
was
do
on
you
me.
yell?
No, that's right, yeah.
Hey, bear.
And I thought she was on me, and she just swiped the ground like 10 yards from me that time, and just turned back to the cub. And then, you know, obviously there's heaps of adrenaline going at this point. And I was sort of looking at the gun, because I think a part of me was like, why didn't the gun go off? You know, and then I was like, no, I mustn't have pulled the trigger. Like I felt like I had weight on the trigger. Like, you know, you just squeeze, you don't like shock it off. You just like squeeze. I felt like I had weight on the trigger, and it was like Ed's competition gun, so it's got a really light trigger. And she was back there at the cub for a second, and then that's when I start videoing, because grizzlies are highly protected in most of the US, and there's been cases where people have claimed out of self-defense they've had to shoot a grizzly, and those people have ended up in jail, because they sort of want to see a slash on you.
Yeah.
You know? And also I'm a foreigner in the country, so I pulled the phone out, I wanted good proof of it, and like she's there, and I'm sort of just quietly, because I didn't want to make any big reactions, you know? I didn't want to make any real loud noises beyond me yelling at her when she was coming at me. Just instinctively I'd done that. And so I'm just quietly like talking to the phone, and I've got the pistol up like that, and you sort of see me turning it, because I was like, fucking something don't look right. But mate, I was that full of adrenaline. And then she was at the cub for a second, and then she walked around to the side slowly, and this side here was all brush. You couldn't see nothing. And then I'm just like where the fuck's she coming out? Like, I'm not going to see her until she's on me. And like, if she comes a third time, she's coming for me. Like, she charged me 20 yards the first time, 10 the second. The next time she's fucking on me, you know. And just to put these bears into perspective, where they live, where black bears are, like black bears are on all four, they're that big. A black bear stands up, it's up there. Like a black bear would maul me and you in 2 seconds flat. These grizzlies, I've talked to these guides where these grizzlies interact with black bears, and they said the first swipe from a grizzly, that black bear is disabled. One swipe. So you're a person, like we're thin-skinned, you know, we're fucked. And so then I couldn't tell where she was coming out, so then I started walking back real slow. And then she popped back up at the cub, and as she was popping up at the cub again and standing up, I'm walking back, so I'm losing the sight of her again, because I'm walking straight back down the hill like this. And then I sort of get down the hill, and I walk out, and I get on the next ridge, and like she's between where I've got to get to my camp, you know. And then anyway, I get to that other ridge, it starts getting dark, then I'm fucking walking in the dark. I've got no idea where she is, if she's trailing me, because they do that a lot. And then I'm sort of walking, and I'm like, fuck, I'm surprised the gun didn't go off. I definitely put weight on the trigger. You know, I've still got the gun in my hand, and then I look and the fucking shell's jammed. So when I first cocked it back to go, the shell had jammed, and this is a funny story because Rogan tells it sometimes like I had the wrong bullets.
Yeah.
But they were the correct bullets, but they had such a flat face on them. So we did all the practice with a cheap bullet, and the projectile's just like a normal rounded off front. So we did all the practice with that, and then just before I was going to go hunting, my mate Ed said, take these, they're for big game. You know, they're like a big hollow point.
Yep, okay.
And that hollow point's got a real flat face on the projectile, and it just jammed on the throat.
Oh, right.
And then that was it. It was jammed. So I ended up pulling it out. I could slide one in there manually, so I'd have one shot if she come at me. And anyway, I walked back to the tent. I had to walk around a big loop around where she was last, got to the tent. And then it snowed like a bitch that night too. It was like real bad weather. And I got up in the morning, packed up in the dark, packed all my shit up and hiked out like in snow up to there the whole way. And then I was like, the whole idea was I was going to hunt that spot, even though my other spot's like nearly a guaranteed you're going to get onto elk and hunt. There's so many grizzlies there, and every trip they come into camp, like, you know, they'll be on like a 3-day cycle where they do a big walk around the mountains, how they hunt. And so like a grizzly will come and it'll come to like 100 yards at a tent. A couple of days later, he'll come past again. He'll come to 50 yards at a tent. And then one of the last trips with my buddy Grant Hughes, the grizzly come right into the tent and was like breathing on the back of the tent. So I was trying to avoid going to such a high grizzly population. I tried, Under Armour was going to come and film a hunt there. So I'm like, oh, at least I have people with me because I usually do these solo hunts. So we'll go there, and then they couldn't come and do that hunt. They couldn't film in that area. And then I talked Shane Dorian, you know Shane Dorian? Talked Shane Dorian into coming. He was going to come for a hunt at least. And then I'm like, at least I have someone with me again. I'm not hunting by myself. And then Shane had to pull out. He got busy. And then, so then I was like, fuck, I keep going everywhere and running in the grizzlies. I'm just going to go to where I know the grizzlies always fucking are. And anyway, so I end up hiking out of there, went into the gun store, bought some shells that actually would cycle through that handgun, and then went to the spot where there's usually tons of grizzlies, and I didn't see a single grizzly. And the second day I killed a big bull elk and hiked it out.
What will these bullets, these shells actually stop a grizzly, or is it just like a deterrent?
There's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, I always make a joke because there's half the population's like, that's in the hunting grizzly country is like, carry bear spray. The other half of the population's like, carry a Glock or a 10 mil or something bigger, you know? And I always make the joke, like, because people have sprayed them before and it's fucking pissed them off with pepper spray and they go ballistic. And there was can't remember his full name, but his name was Todd. I think he was a forestry worker. He had a grizzly sow, jump him. She had cubs. She come and went to go him, and I think she got a hold of him the first time. He sprayed the hell out of her, like he maced the fuck out of her, and she mauled him, and he was walking back like holding half of his fucking head onto his face pretty much. Like she tore right down there and ripped him up. And then she trailed him and come back for more. She hit him a second time going down the trail. So it's just like, which way is the wind going as well?
Yeah.
Like, what's the conditions? Is it windy as hell and you're trying to spray a grizzly when it's coming at you and then you cop it?
What's the distance for this spray? Is this like a 5 metre sort of thing?
It's supposed to be like, it's close quarters sort of thing.
I mean, that's close.
Yeah. I just prefer, not a jam gun, but I just prefer a gun and
put it down
and go at it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, what
happened?
It's
a full last resort.
Of course.
You know, that's why when she stood up and she come the first time, I wasn't just like trying to squeeze the trigger off. The only time I reckon I squeezed the trigger was the second time when she was like at 10 yards. And I remember having to do this with the gun all the way like that. She was like there. And she turned off right at that spot, give out a big huff and sort of smoked the ground with her paw.
Fucking hell.
And then, I used to get shaky when I'd think and talk about it afterwards. Of
course.
Because you also don't, I just got one then all the way down my spine. You don't realise how big one of those animals are. Even if you see one in the zoo, you've got no fucking idea how big that animal is until it's 10 yards and there's no cage between you and it and it's coming for you like that.
Yeah.
And I can still see, as she was racing at me like that, like they full on lunge like that. As she was lunging, I can still see her hair going like like buffing every time she hit the ground. Her hair would go boom, boom.
A big afro.
Oh, fuck, it was crazy, mate.
What does that do to your psyche when you go back into a hunt?
You're aware of it, you're cautious of it, and you're thinking of it. And I guess it depends what sort of person you are, but it's not a, I'm not doing that again sort of thing. You know, it's
No,
like,
of course.
it's a whole, you know, fuck it, it's that gay saying. Can you say gay on this show?
It's the homosexual
They're
saying.
Just as a saying, I say that. But it's that whole gay saying of, you know, everyone's alive, but not everyone's living, you know,
Sure.
It's that sort of thing. So I just, like, I don't want to die, but at the same time, I want to do what I do.
Yeah. And that's the trade-off. You know,
Yeah.
if you're going to hunt elk, you have to be aware of, you're in grizzly
If
country.
you're going to
yeah?
hunt them in that country, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, bears are so foreign to us here. And people talk about the size of grizzlies and all that type of stuff. Like, people just don't sort of, are we talking like 10 foot tall?
Oh, they're giant. That bottom eave, which the viewers can't see, but they're taller than you, and you're a big lanky bastard.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
What is, when you get home and you tell Kim about it, your wife, like, how does that make her?
I think in the early days, she used to freak, you know, when I'd tell her those sorts of stories. And she's just so used to them now that she's just like,
Part and parcel.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. A couple of years ago, not this last recent trip to New Zealand, but a couple of years ago, I was at the point where I had to either drop my backpack or I was going to fall about
Well, there's
400 metres.
There's two New Zealand stories that I
Yeah.
want to hear, because you've told me both of these maybe a year ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're insane. Like the bear story, people have heard that before, and that's pretty insane. But New Zealand, for a lot of people, you know, they think of New Zealand as just like similar to here, but it's not.
Oh, it's completely different.
It's fucking Mordor.
Yeah.
You know?
It's Alps, straight out of the ocean, just fucking Alps.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like you fly over it, and Zach and I, when we went over there, you fly over it. It looks like you're flying over. And when we flew over Switzerland as well, it's the same place.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's
Yeah.
like a carbon copy. And what do you hunt? What do you hunt in?
Tar and
NZ?
chamois, so they're an introduced species. I go over red deer as well, but most of the risk is in like the Westlands, you know, so South Island, and it's hunting the tar and chamois because they love those Alps, and horrible country, like not horrible, but as in it's really hard to walk around on it, most of it. So most people get a helicopter in, they'll fly to the top, and then you sort of hunt the tops, and then get a helicopter out. And that's probably the smartest way to do it, unless you know the country really well in the spot. But the whole idea behind that is a lot of the dangers getting to somewhere, because it's like, that's where you want to get to. There's only so many routes, and you've got to climb it, then you've got to climb back down. And the weather's harsh as well. So, and there's risk with a helicopter as well, because once you get up the tops, it's like that, you know, you can fall on one side, you know, and a metre fall might turn into not stopping for 400, 500, 600 metres to the bottom sort of thing. There's cases where helicopters, there was one guy a couple of years ago, they dropped them off at a cabin and they literally hopped out of the helicopter, and the guy started sliding on the ground there and just kept going, mate.
What,
Just
the
once you
helicopter slid or the dude?
No, the dude when he hopped out.
Oh, wow.
Just slipped right there at the cabin and then kept going.
Oh, fuck.
So it's hardcore country.
Yeah.
But I usually like to, there's a bit of romance between me and just the hiking part, you know.
Okay.
So just the hike up and the hike out's a cool part of it, you know. So I always like to just start from the bottom and then go to the top and through the top and then come down a different way if I can, you know, just for the sake of exploring country. But anyway, this one trip I was really struggling to get onto the chamois it was. And I walked into an area that I didn't really know very well, got a bit of local knowledge on how to get in there and out. And I walked up there and they'd had a really bad storm. And I camped up there for 5 or 6 nights, I think, up in the tops. And when we had this really bad storm, it made it really difficult to go back the way that I came. So climbing up is one thing. So you got everything you need on your backpack. So you got a big heavy backpack on as well. Climbing up's one thing, but going down's another, because when you're going forward, you're seeing it all as you go. When you're going back, you're blind to most of it, you know. And anyway, I pulled out a map and I studied the map, and it showed a much more gradual contour down the mountain a different way into like a stream that would lead down into the river, and then I could follow the river back out to the road. And I got there and I was walking and got like crampons on, which is like spikes on the bottom of your boots, ice axe, and constantly going and going and going. What happens with these crampons if there's snow is the crampon will crush and compact the snow, and then your spikes aren't going into solid ground anymore. They're sitting on snow.
Just soap.
And I didn't know, but I was on top of a glacier. So underneath was all blue ice, completely blue ice, but it had this much snow on top of it. And as I was walking, the crampon jammed up, wouldn't hook onto the snow, and I started sliding, and I ended up getting the ice axe in. Couldn't go back up, and then I knew that I could drop over a cliff and fall onto like big powdery snow, but there was definitely no way I could go back that way if I did it. So I sort of let myself go, and I got to this edge, ended up throwing my backpack off this little edge, like you're only talking 10 meters or so. It landed in real powdery
Not a little
snow.
edge. How is that a little edge?
It's little enough.
10 metres.
When I tell you the rest of the story, it's little enough.
Fuck me, Dad, I went on the 10-metre platform at the Lambton pool once and shit myself. I had to climb back down. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Anyway, I ended up going over myself, and I did it pretty gracefully, where I sort of hit the side of the slope and then slid the rest of the way into the snow. But then that was it. There was only that way that I didn't know other than a map with contour lines on it. And anyway, I started hiking down in there, and it's really hard to see. It's like all cloudy. It's still snowing and everything like that. And as I was dropping in there, it just actually got worse and worse. It was the complete opposite. It got steeper and steeper. And I dare say a lot of that country had been swept away in the last few years since that map had been done. That's what put me off so much. Because you'd see there was big rocks and boulders and everything out of the mountain. And I ended up getting to a point, and I come around the corner, and as I got around the corner, it was like heaps worse. Like the whole side had fallen out, and it had literally fallen out that it was like a 300-metre drop straight underneath me.
So
and
the glacier, is this just in the middle of a glacier? Is this a cliff edge?
This is a cliff edge. So the glacier runs back like that way and slopes around, and that's the bit that I slid down, and I dropped into a ravine.
Yep.
Then I followed that ravine down, which is supposed to go on a more contour ground, and it didn't. It was horrible, and it was really loose underfoot at that point. So you had all snow and frozen bits, but it was also really loose and falling away. And anyway, I had the ice axe jammed in, and where this frozen ice was coming out of the face of the mountain, you had to really kick in there to get your crampon to kick in, you know. And I was kicking in, and as I was kicking in, the crampon come off my boot. So I only had this crampon in here, and this hand here, and this foot kept slipping. And the crampon slid down, and it sat on a little bush. Like there's this little bush frozen out of the side of the hill where it goes down like that. And it caught on there, and it was really bad, like because that ice axe that's strapped around your wrist like that, and that's nearly, in the end, that's all that was holding. If that let go, I was gone. I was done, you know. And then just really quickly, I had to think that I need to lose weight real fast. And like I said, everything's in your backpack. All your survival gear, your hunting equipment, tents, sleeping, like your shelter, everything's in that backpack. And I had to take this strap off. I couldn't just let the pack go because it's over this shoulder as well like that. So I had to take this shoulder strap off, and I pulled myself back up for a brief second. I put my hand through that loop, grabbed back onto the axe, and then I dropped this side off. And it was silly because everything's so white when it's frozen. It's really hard to, is that 300 meters down there, or is it just 60 meters? Is it a slope, you know? And then I kept thinking, me pack might be right, because my bow and everything's strapped to the pack. Because I wouldn't mind still hunting on my way out, you know? It's a silly thought at the time, but I was trying to ease the situation, I guess. I was like, oh, I hope I don't break my bow, because I want to keep hunting. And anyway, I dropped it off like that, and I leant over, and I just remember seeing the pack. It dropped off my pack, it hit the first bit, hit that slope beside where the crampon is, and just went and shot off. And then I was just waiting, and then I heard it hit down the bottom. I'm like, holy fuck, that's a long way down. But straight away there was this massive relief, like I just dropped 30 kilos or 15 kilos or something. And so anyway, I ended up pulling on the ice axe. I re-kicked that foot, drove the ice axe in again a little bit lower, and got to a spot where it was a little bit benchy, where the pack had slidden off like that. And this ice axe has a telescopic handle on it, you know, so you can use it as a walking stick as well. The bottom telescopes out. So I telescoped it all the way out, and turned it, and I was reaching out and like, can't remember which hand it was. It would have been this hand because I still had the ice axe like that. I was reaching out trying to grab that crampon that was sitting on that bush, and like it fucking wouldn't make it. I always say to everyone, it was like a real shit-made Hollywood movie because it was like it was missing it by that much, you know. I was like, give me a fucking break, you know. And I brought it back and I turned it all the way out past the stop point, and I just caught it on the last bit of the grommet and I hooked it. Had to climb up a little bit more and chisel a bench out. So, because to put crampons on, you need to sit down.
Yeah.
So I chiseled a bench out with the axe, sat down, put the crampon on, and then I seriously went 10 more meters, and the fucking went like that. It was inverted backwards like that. So the mountain didn't go like that, went like that through this section. There was all these big ice crystals over it where I had to try and pass through, and I got to a point, and it's like full nerve-wracking and everything. I had binoculars on, and I took them off. I just fucking threw them down the mountain. There was no way I was getting past with binos on. I just wanted to lose every bit of weight that I could. Like my camera went with a backpack. Everything went with that backpack. Yeah. And all I had was GPS, like an EPIRB thing on me for hit it if in emergency. And I'd already tried to contact a buddy over there, Tom Jones, to see if I could get a helicopter in to get me out because the situation was so bad and they couldn't fly in those conditions. And yeah, so anyway, I ended up taking it on, and there was 2 like rock chutes past that part of the mountain that inverted, and one rock chute shot off and probably would have threw me 150, 200 meters down the mountain off the cliff. The other one shot me back into the next cliff face that was there, and I had to make this jump, and I'm like, if I fall in the first one, I'm done. If I make it to the second one, as long as I don't hit my head on the way down, I'll just break arms and legs, hopefully not me back. And that made me feel comfortable. That's how shit the situation was. I was like, I'll just have broken bones, it'd be fucking sweet. Or I could get to about the middle and then hop again, like do one hop and then the next hop. And fucking it took everything to let go of that. Like it took everything to let go and just say, fucking do it, you know? And I've only been in that situation like 2 or 3 times when it's truly like every part of your body's like, don't do it, cunt. Do not do this. And then you're just like, nah, fuck it, I'm doing it. And I did it and I made the fucking jump and I was like, fuck. So good. So that point was gradual. Then I could climb down between all these rocks. Anyway, I got down to this creek that from the top looked like it was doing that. The fucking creek was like that as well. It was fucked. It was a nightmare the whole day.
Did you psych yourself up to do that jump, or was it just like a thing, okay, let's go?
No, psych yourself up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plan it, run through your head.
It's weirder than that. It's like you got 2 personalities. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
And it's like you're 2 people, and one of the people that you are is like, nah, we're not doing this. And the other person's like, come on, let's have a crack. You know, and it's like, I don't know, this last time I did it as well, it was even harder. But yeah, anyway. So I get there. The first thing I found is my binoculars. They're in 1,000 pieces. Like, fucking, I didn't give a shit anyway. And then I searched up and down to find my backpack. And because that creek actually, it was more like a fucking waterfall on a slope, the pack wasn't underneath where I dropped it anymore. So I was straight underneath where I originally was, and I was looking back up and I was like, holy fuck. And I'm actually in the rain now. I'm lower, so it stopped snowing where I am. It's starting to rain. And anyway, so I'm there, I'm soaking wet, and I'm looking for my pack, and I'm like, fuck, it's not here. Like, it hit here somewhere. And then I found the bow in bits and pieces, and then I kept tracking down further and further, and eventually picked up camera gear and all sorts of stuff. Found the backpack, and when I found the backpack, it was a relief too. Because it's like, okay, I've got first aid kit in here, I've got a shelter in here, and I've got something to keep me warm, the sleeping bag. So I sort of piled the backpack together as best as I could, strapped it up, and hiked out of there. And so I started at like 9 in the mornings when I first dropped off. So I got up in the morning in dark, packed up camp, started hiking out. 9 o'clock in the mornings when I dropped off, and it's now past midday. Anyway, it's raining and this creek's getting, more and more water flowing down it, and I'm getting wetter and wetter. And you'd come to these spots where it would just drop off. It would literally just be a 10, 15, 20 meter drop off. And there was fucking no way to go around it, because how that ravine was, where this creek and this flow was, this vertical river, if you want to call it that, horizontal river, is the sides are like this. So you can't go out of it, or you could, but there's great danger in just trying to climb out of it and go around somewhere. So there was one section where it all washed out and there was like a decent tree, and I ended up like getting that like it was actually the trunk of the tree about that round. I ended up getting that and dragging it down and feeding it over like to where beside this waterfall was. And I ended up climbing down that to the bottom step, and then I'd go a couple of 100 meters and it would just be around rocks, still rough, like you're slipping and it's hard. Then you'd just hear the water raging again, and you'd walk to the edge, fucking another waterfall. And one of them I managed to like squeeze down between rocks and get down there. And then when it got really bad down the end was when the cliff face was sort of stopped on the sides and it was just all thick bush. They call it monkey scrub. It's nearly impenetrable. Like it's like horrible. Like you get frustrated with it big time because you start getting caught up in it and it's a fight to go through there. Anyway, long story short, end up fighting my way through all that. Finally got down to where the river was, and the river's, because it's rain and the river is just fucking raging, like look like chocolate milk coming down the mountain, it's just streaming down. And anyway, I was on the side of the river and I was like, dang, fuck for that. Like, yeah, like it was a little bit like I'm alive, like sick. And I'm walking down the river, and when the river bends like this, it bends into the side of the mountain. And it's like I was stuck again. Like I had to fucking cross the river. There was no other way around it. And I already knew, I've done some crazy river crossings in my time. I already knew that I would cross here, but I'd come out the other side fucking 200 meters down, because it was raging.
That's how fast it's going.
That's going that fast, And I'm already ready to take the backpack off, because the backpack starts filling up with water and getting heavy, you're fucked. Anyway, I fucking jumped in, started like you kicking and paddling as best you can to the other side, fucking hitting rocks, bopping all the way across. Get to the other side, you're like a fucking drowned dog coming out of the water, Get to the other side, walk a couple of k's down there, river bends into the mountain again. Fucking back in. I ended up doing it 3 times. I had to bob across the river 3 times. And the further you go down, the worse it's getting, because you got all these side creeks running into it. And anyway, I get right down there, and if you've ever been to the South Island of New Zealand, especially on the west coast, the bridges are like just wide enough for a car. Like if you actually hop out where those bridges are, you'll find side view mirrors of people's cars smashed off on the side of the bridge everywhere where they hit the bridge. And the bridge is like 200 meters long, and I'm like, I didn't come all this fucking way to get hit crossing this bridge because it's nighttime now,
right,
in the dark by fucking tourists. And I jumped in the river again, fucking paddled over, got to the other side, got to the car. I was just fucked when I was in a hire car, and I stripped down. I just had my undies on, and that was it. And I fucking hopped in this hire car, and I was like, fucking hell. Got out of the servo with my knickers on. I didn't give a fuck. I didn't give a fuck.
Fucking hell.
But it's the best when something. It's to say now it's the best. And even immediately after it happened, it was the best for something to wear you down, wear you down as hard as it fucking can, and then you come out the other side.
Because once you're in that car, it's just back to normal life.
Just back to normal life.
Put the heater on.
I rang up Kim. Like, hey, how are you,
What about
babe?
my day?
What are you doing? And she probably started off with something fucking about the kids, I don't know. But she's like, where are you? And I'm like, I just come out of the mountains. I had to drop my pack. I was in a real bad situation. She's like, oh, were you? Okay, cool. I started talking about something else.
Talk about Netflix.
And then I told the story to someone else, and she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I fucking told you. I had to drop my pack on the side of the mountain. It was it or me. And I still believe that's the bit that saved me life. Otherwise, I was done then.
So when you go through that moment, obviously you have to drop the pack. Too much weight on the hand, you can't hold it, right?
Yeah.
Are you at that point where you're thinking, hang on, all my shelter's in here, I'm going to die anyway? Or were you confident that you could get from there to the car?
No, it's a puzzle, and you just put that piece together when you can.
Yeah.
Just put the first piece in first, and the
We'll
first
deal with
piece
that later.
was, I'm dead if I don't drop my pack. I'm fucking going. Like this, that hand was fucked. My whole arm, my whole shoulder was just dead, And you put that part of the puzzle together first. I think there was a quick thought that everything in here is replaceable.
Sure.
I think that was part of the thought, and then it's silly. I don't regret it, but I do regret, because I lost my camera. When I dropped my pack, my camera just exploded and I lost everything on it. And I had such cool video and stuff on that camera. It's the silliest thing, and that's one of the things.
But that's why you do all these things.
Yeah, fuck it.
This is your life. This is your living. This is why you do all. It's like any job. You risk certain things for a certain reward, and that's why you do it. I mean,
seems like all the best things come with that little bit of risk.
There has to be risk if you're
It's
going to do
almost
anything.
like, I always it's like good life's almost like owning the business. There's risk in owning the business.
Sure.
But if you're successful and you run it right, what you gain out of it is essentially doing what I do. Like feel like I'm retired, or I'm at least semi-retired, because I've got a business, my own business that supports me when I go and do these things. These missions don't fucking, they don't pay for themselves. Like I pay for them all, obviously. And essentially it's a little bit like that. It's like, yeah, there's a bit of risk involved, but fuck, it's awesome on the other side.
I remember you telling me about that story when you dropped your pack and it's, 400 meters down to the ground and you're dead if it doesn't happen. And we were sitting at dinner and I was like, that's crazy, man. And then like 3 or 4 months later, you go, I'm going back to New Zealand. And I'm like, hey, don't die this time, all that type of stuff. And then you had an even worse case.
Yeah. The last one was fucking bad.
Lunatic.
Yeah. A hike in was good. I kicked its ass. I went about it the right way. Changed a bit of things up from the lessons I learned last trip. For starters, I was gonna hike in. If I killed something, get a helicopter out. So that was pre-planned. I booked a commercial helicopter.
So these helicopters are coming in and out all the time?
All the time. That's just something that
gig.
happens in New Zealand. They drop hunters off, pick them up all the time. So that was something I put in the play already, that, around this date that I'm going to get a pickup from in this area. And so, yeah, that was all planned. Hiked in, wasn't any game. Hiked in further, just kept getting further and further back. But all the risks that I took up to that point it was all managed. I managed it all really well. I had a crash hat with me this time because one little slip and you hit your head on the rocks, you're laying in the freezing cold, you're dead anyway, And the ice axe had better crampons this trip. So Kim bought me some really good high quality crampons. They made a big difference when I was doing the ice stuff. Like you nearly felt, obviously not, but you nearly felt invincible with them on, because fucking they just held into the ice so well. And better tent, better shelter, better everything. And also I thought, anyway, I ended up hiking right back in there, found a big bull tar, big buck chamois, sorry. Ended up getting it killed. Fucking everything was beautiful. I collected the meat, got the skin, sitting around camp, ate fresh chamois that night. Like it was friggin' awesome, And then the chopper was picking me up in the morning. And anyway, I'm on a slope like this. It's a horrible slope for a helicopter to try and land. And the only flat section was where there was a bunch of brush. So I cut that brush out, spent the time that afternoon to make a good strip for the helicopter to land on, a good pad. And the weather was 2 days away. So that's why I had to be picked up that next morning as well. And anyway, the weather come in that night when I was in the tent, like really bad, like bad snow, rain followed by snow, followed by hail. And then...
So you just out on an open hill sort of thing? That's the slope, just an open hill?
You're in the Alps. It's actually like that.
Right.
And anyway, I got up in the morning. The helicopter was supposed to pick me up at 10:30 or at 9:30, I think it was. I got up at first light, opened up the tent, looked outside, like you could see all the low cloud coming through. There was sleet pelting the tent and that. They don't fly in that sort of weather, So I'm like, oh, well, I'm here for you're tent bound at that point. You got to sit the weather out. And anyway, I get a message through on this GPS device, and it says they're leaving now. My buddy Antonio sent me the message. They're leaving now to pick you up. I was like, so I jumped out of my sleeping bag, and it's like fucking freezing that night. Like it was insane. Like water bottle inside my tent beside me was rock solid frozen. You couldn't drink the water.
What?
That's how cold it got that night. And
how does your head survive that?
Oh, you're all full covered up. It's like you're in hardcore gear, like sleeping bag, like a -15 sleeping bag and stuff like that. All good quality gear. And I opened the tent up again, and it's like literally like pellets of hail flogging the side of the tent, and I can see 20 yards. And I'm like, there's no way this fucking chopper's coming. Anyway, and I wrote him back the message. I'm like, mate, the weather is not suitable for a helicopter up here. And he's like, I've just spoken to them. They're on their way. There's one little gap in the clouds. They're going to try and pick you up. So I get up in a panic then, because I haven't packed up for the morning. You don't want a helicopter sitting around in that sort of weather. So I jump up and start packing me sleeping bag and stuffing everything in my tent real fast. and I've got a mattress that's bright orange, and that's what I'm going to use to flag them down, because you're a fucking ant on the mountain still. And so anyway, I jammed it all in there, and as this is happening, I'm getting wet, but it's like the chopper's picking me up. Who gives a fuck? I'll be back at the car in 20 minutes. Have the heater cranking, I was thinking about that a lot. And so I get up, pack up, and I'm sitting there for a sec. I put all my stuff beside the helicopter pad that I've sort of cut out, and because they want to land right beside you with your gear, and then there's no movement under the blades. You're just right beside the body of the helicopter. You put your gear in, you're out. So it's all set up, and then I hear the rotor blades coming up the valley, like, and I'm like still can see bugger all, more than before, but still it's like 80 meters max. And I've got this mattress that's deflated, but it's like I said, it's really bright, and I can hear the chopper blades, and I'm like, far out, they sound low. And because when you send the GPS coordinate, you send the GPS coordinate from here, right? If that GPS coordinate's off by 100 meters, that's not much. You're still going to find somewhere. But 100 meters down the mountain puts them 200-300 meters below you.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of slope that I was on. So I'm hearing the rotor blades coming, and then they sort of go quiet, and they went quiet because they went behind a little mountain that was in front of me before it dropped off. And I walked over to the side, and once you get over the side, I can hear it coming up on the wind, like it's howling. I can hear their rotor blades coming up on the wind. And just through that cloud and everything, I can just see their lights flashing. Cannot see the helicopter physically, can just see their lights flashing, And they're coming up through this cloud into the mountain, and I'm like I'm standing on the edge, and I'm fucking looking at them down there. And I'm like, what's their visibility like? Like, if I can't see them, and then I've literally, it's a shit setup that I've got, but it was like this Garmin InReach, and my phone had died, so you got a text on it, and you got to go through the whole alphabet to send a text sort of thing. The device is good for what it is. Like, it's very small, but it's fucking not ideal in that situation to send a text message.
An emergency
I'm
message.
trying to send out a message to say, fucking tell them the mountain's in front of them. Like, they were literally just flying up the valley, and like, this mountain's, and I'm sure this guy knows it like the back of his hand, but we all make mistakes, especially in that sort of weather. And I just remember thinking, fuck, like, do I start to stand back? I'm waiting for the chopper to hit the mountain, and it's coming in, it's like, here's the mountain like this, and it's coming in, and then you just see it go, fucking, like, he like literally fucking nearly nosed the mountain, and it was like, oh fuck. That's it. Fucking just disappeared, faded down the mountain. So then I was like, I get a message back. Before I can even get my message out, I get a message back. They can't find you. And I'm like, yeah, they're fucking hundreds of meters below me. They nearly flew into the mountain. And anyway, so I'm drenched, all my gear's packed up. And I remember studying some contour maps beforehand about that area, and it didn't look doable to me to be able to walk down the valley and walk out that way. And I've already come over a whole mountain, and now that the bad weather's there, fucking it was going to be hellish going up. And anyway, my friend gave me a little bit of advice. He said he reckons it's doable, because I'm like, mate, I'm fucking soaking wet. I'm freezing. I don't think I can set the tent up now. Or at least I didn't want that as my priority option, And I was just so cold. I wanted to fucking move. I wanted to get going. I sort of wanted out at that point.
Is that in a situation like that, you're soaking wet, it's freezing cold, are you wanting to, like, obviously in this situation you want to sort of move because you're not in a good spot, but is the protocol to try and get warm inside a tent, or is the protocol to get your body moving so you can be warm?
Depends on the situation. Look, the best thing I could have done in that situation is go tent bound for 2 or 3 days, let that weather clear. I would have climbed back into a dry sleeping bag. The helicopter would have come and picked me up as planned and would have flown me out, or the weather would have cleared and I would have been able to walk back over the tops and go back the way that I'd come, which I was already familiar with to a certain degree, which was in no way pretty at all. Like, that was going to be a tough trek. But the fucking candy that was right in front of my eyes was like, you just walk straight down this creek and then you're out on the main river and you'll head back and get back to the hire car. And anyway, my buddy helped talk me into it. I've got to say that, because I wasn't going to do it. But he's like, no, I think it's doable, and the fucking cunt thinks I'm fucking Superman, so he thinks I'm going to fly off the fucking mountain, And anyway, he talked me into it, and he's like, yeah, once you get past this point, it should be fine. And anyway, I walked over with my backpack and sort of looked over the ledge, and I was like, yeah, it's not too bad. It's going to be a bit shitty. And anyway, I started hiking it, and a few slips and fucking falls on the way, just in those early stages. And then the creek actually got pretty good considering what the country is. You know, it was just a gradual slope down. And then, so now I was, I don't know, a K or two into it. You know, I was like, oh, if it's like this all the way, it's going to be a big day. I mightn't get out of here till midnight. But fuck it, I was feeling good because I was warm again, because I was moving and I was active. And had a belly full of fresh meat. Fucking had plenty of energy, and I was going, and then I come around a corner and I can hear the water raging. You know, I'm like, oh, fuck, that doesn't sound good. Anyway, I get around the corner and it's like just big rapids after rapids in the creek, and big drop-offs and falls, and the sides now are like this. Like the further you go down, the fucking higher the sides get, you know. And anyway, it was not, that country wasn't suitable for mankind one bit. But I got to a point where that the last section of that rapid was, and I could see the ground went good again. I was like, well, if I just can get down this, I'll be right, you know. And there's always the push to go forward in a situation like that. And maybe there probably shouldn't be, maybe it's just me, but there was a bit of a slopey rock, and you know, there's frozen ice on friggin' just about everything, but it looked pretty good. It was only a 5 or 6 meter jump sort of thing to the next bit that I thought I could do, and I could actually like lean off the rock a little bit first to sort of take off a meter of it, and by the time I land and cramp my legs and that, it should be fine, you know. It'd be essentially only doing like a 3 meter drop. And I picked that spot for a reason. There was a massive like glacier lagoon underneath it, you know, just like you could tell it was really deep. It was like just that real blue water. And you could see where when it really gets pumping, water just pumps in there. And I sort of picked that spot as a safety net, as in if I fall, I'll just fall into that water. But it's like, it's only 1% of the thought, you know, I'm not going to fall anyway, it's fucking fine. And anyway, I leant over and jumped. It wasn't even one that you had to build up a lot of courage for. It's a pretty standard jump, I thought. And the second I hit it, my fucking feet went straight out from underneath me. It just had crystal fucking clear ice over the whole fucking rock. I don't have crampons on. You can't use crampons in that sort of situation when you're going rock hopping, you know. And so my feet hit that. They went straight underneath me. I just remember going back flat out because it's on a slope. And then the first thing that comes off is your legs. So your legs go down and that sends you in a hurdle backwards, you know, because your weight's like that. And you've got a big backpack on. Mate, and I was just fucking in the air, free falling. And I just remember hitting that lagoon. I still feel the water fucking slap me face now. The way it come over me and just fucking hit me face. And like, this is fucking freezing water. I've just been hiking and warm. And then straight away it's like, like you gotta, it's like you nearly got to tell yourself, fucking chill. You know, like, well, it's chilled, but you know what I mean. It's just, don't fucking panic.
How far do you fall, do you think?
6-7 meters.
Fuck hell.
Yeah, maybe further. It felt like a long time, but
yeah.
I think looking back on it, it probably wasn't. But and then the backpack's holding me upside down in the water like that, and the current's pushing me downstream straight away. So I'm fucking trying to get up, and you know, I pretty much turned myself inside out, and I was fucking scrambling on the rocks because it's just like full rock faces on the side of this lagoon. Scrambling, trying to get on these fucking rocks and hold yourself up at the same time. And as it pulled me around the corner to send me over the next drop, and I wasn't 100% sure how big the next drop was, I ended up just scrambling enough that I sort of got my body and my chest onto a rock and sort of just pulled me weight up there. And then, anyway, climbed out, and the pack weighed a ton, obviously, because a bunch of water had gone in it. And then I was like, fuck, like, that could have been heaps worse, you know, but I remember having that little thought of pick this spot because if you fall, you're going into the water and not on the splatter and on the rocks, you know. And that was the point where I was like, fuck, okay, we really need to get a chopper in. We really need to just wait it out and get a chopper in. And the mission ended up becoming, I'll keep walking until I can find somewhere a chopper can land, you know, and just, there was always something that would stop a chopper landing. Like there was one spot, there was this fucking giant rock. It was as big as this studio. and it was way up out of the water and that. I'm like, fuck, chopper, if I can climb up there, a chopper can land on that, you know, and I got around to it. There was no way I could climb up there, not a fucking chance in hell. And then I remember sort of getting to the side and looking at it, I'm like, fuck, a chopper's not going to land on that. It's fucking like, you know, wasn't going to be possible, you know. And then I went probably a few kilometres, like jumping rocks, and I had some slips on the way just doing that. Like, it was really hard country to navigate, get through. And
are they so slippery because they're just covered in ice, or is it moss, or what's?
Ice and water.
Okay.
One or the other.
So they're like trying to grab onto a piece of soap, sand on it.
If it's water that's just like slowly splashing on it, it fucking freezes. So they're all like ice covered, you know. And if it's water that runs past it constantly, it's usually not frozen, but they're so used to having water on them, they get like a shine and slippery.
So they're slippery as fuck.
Oh, they're fucked. And I'm carrying this backpack still. I've got tar meat in the back. I've got the skin still. I was in the fucking no give up mood, you know. And I kept powering on. I'm still looking for a place to land a chopper. I'm like, fuck, you've already done enough. You put enough effort in. I ain't giving up now, you know. You're not giving up now. If you can find somewhere a chopper can land, you know. And there was just fucking nowhere a chopper could land. And I got to the point where I was stuck between a spot that I'd climbed down to and then the next fucking drop. And there was no way to climb down it. And there was like a couple of different tubes of water, like literally like runs through the rocks in a gap, you know, and it's like almost like a slippery slide, like because water's run down there for millions of years, it's carved it out, so it's all rounded like that. And I was literally just stuck in this one spot, and I was fucking just standing there, and I was looking around like, fucking chopper cannot come in here. And then I cannot climb back up. I cannot fucking climb down there. I can't get down there. I'm like, it's fucking going down one of these waterfalls. And this was the spot where I was just fucking, I was there, and I was doing the full argument, you know, with like two different people in me, and it's just like, one's like, nah, fucking too big a risk, not gonna do it. And the other one's like, fuck, I reckon we can do it.
Can you see where the waterfall goes?
Nah, not really, but you can hear that it doesn't go too far, you know what I mean? One does. That side there's like fucking, yeah. And this other side's not as bad, and it sort of runs down in a slope on the rocks first. And I can't see where it goes, but I can see the end of that lagoon, you know.
Okay, so you can see that it's not just
no, that's right.
Off.
Yeah. And yeah, it was fucking weird. It was a real weird jump. It was a real fucking weird thing to do.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. But what else do you do? You just said you can't. There's no. You can't go back. You can't go forward. You can't get a chopper in. You have to do something.
And I just fucking jumped, and I leant against the side of the rocks when I went. So I didn't jump directly into the water. I sort of jumped into the edge, like the water's gushing down there, and there's a rock slope like that. I jumped in there, and I put my shoulder and my backpack in there, and I sort of slid, and then I hit that gush of water, you know. And it was like, what I thought was a ribbon of water running down there like that was a fucking ribbon of water running down there like that. Like it nearly swallowed me whole on the way down, you know. Anyway, I fucking hit the thing, and there was like, it plunged me down a long way, and there was fucking no bottom. I never touched the bottom. And I just remember fucking straight away, like just trying to get up like as fast, because the water's so cold that it makes you want to fucking open your mouth, you know, like it shocks you. So it's like just instantly like trying to get to the top. Like you've only been under for 2 seconds, but it feels like you've been under for 2-3 minutes already in that cold water, you know. And I got to the top, and I end up fucking paddling. It was rushing me down flat out, like fast, like taking me fucking down. And I couldn't get onto any fucking rocks. Everything was too slopey or too slippery. And I remember starting to align myself, and I'm like, fucking take the backpack off, because it was fucking getting heavy. I could feel myself just getting lower and lower in the water. And I was just about to unstrap the backpack, and then something hit me body. I think it hit me under here. I had a real bad rib for a while. Hit me under here, and I sort of looked up forward, and there was a massive tree like that round that was going over the next fucking waterfall, and it was all the roots out of the bottom of it sticking up. Ended up hooking this arm around one of the roots and like holding onto the pack, because I nearly had the pack off. And then sort of just holding onto that for a second and scrambling to the side. And I remember seeing me water bottle fucking go. Like my water bottle had punched out of my pack. I didn't give a fuck about water, but it was just the thought that, fuck, that was nearly me, you know. That was a part of me going, you know. And then I got there and I climbed up on the rock and I didn't think to do it. I didn't mean to do it. It just fucking come out of me like fucking like some adrenaline junkie, like fucking yes. Like I was doing the fist pumps in the air and like yelling. And it was just like a massive surge of adrenaline. And then I started thinking about it and it was like, the yes bit was like, fuck, you talked yourself into doing it. Because everything in my body was like, don't do it, don't do the jump. And you're like, oh, fucking, I've got to. This is our best chance, you know, and then doing it and making it. And then the pack was that hot, heavy at that point. And I remember I was hot. I was like, even though I'd come out of that freezing cold water, I was fucking hot, like cooking. And I took my pants off because they were just soaking wet. And I just had like long johns on. And then I just had a t-shirt on after that. And I stayed warm for ages. And I kept hiking. I went through some more shit spots. And then I just remember coming around the next corner because I kept thinking, is this fucking ever going to end? Like, it's going to be dark soon. I do not want to be here in the dark. It's fucking raining. The creek's flowing harder. It's getting noisier. Like, it was fucking like deafening, you know, constant. And then I come around the corner and the country it was fucking turned that much worse. It was just, the sides, there was trees in the creek, right? Dead trees in the creek. But then there wouldn't be a tree for 300 or 400 meters. And because the banks had washed away. And so those trees had come from the very top. That was the sides of the mountain just falling in on itself constantly and getting washed downstream. And I come around and it was just this like a marble rock wall, like this old massive big stone wall, fucking like a mountain. And then there was a fucking ribbon carved in it like this, where the water had been running through there for fucking millions of years and had just carved out a gap in the mountain. That's the only place the river could go. And then it was fucking just shooting out the other side and I couldn't see where it went, but I could fucking hear it just raging down. You know, the only way to get across there was I had to climb across some trees that had fallen down in the debris. And I climbed up and I got to like where that ribbon of rock had come through. So there's mountains on both sides of me the whole time. The whole time I've been walking down mountains. That's how a fucking river is. It's in the middle. And then these fucking mountains come together like that. But the fucking had carved its way through there, you know.
Did you record any of this? I know.
No, everything was dead now.
Right.
Except for my GPS that you have to go through the alphabet to send a fucking message from. And anyway, I ended up climbing up the top and I remember getting up the top and the volume, just how much fucking louder it got. I looked down, it's just a sheer cliff and a fucking straight tube of a waterfall for fucking 300-400 meters down.
Oh, fuck.
And all the shit that I went through, right? Climbing down, dropping into that fucking glacier water, jumping through that fucking waterfall and down. Every bit, there was some part that was like, oh, we could do it like this. And then I got to there and it was like, nah.
Yeah.
There's fucking no way you can get past this. There's no way you can get past this. This is fucking it. You're done. You're staying here. And then I sent out a message to a mate and I felt banged up at that point too, because I think I got to the realization that I'm not getting out today. And the adrenaline worn off from the rest of it, because every point I got to was like, oh, it's not too bad now. At least I can go through there, you know. And then I finally got to that point, and then it was like my body was like, yeah, right, let's fucking let him have it. And then it was like, fuck, I'm fucking sore, and my shoulders were fucked, and my leg felt fucked, and it's just all caught up with me in one trip, one spot, and then it was like, fuck, it's nearly dark, like it's nearly fucking dark. I'm soaking wet. There's fucking not a flat bit of ground here. I'm no way I'm sleeping on a rock in this creek. This creek's probably raged to the height of this before, you know. There's no way I can sleep in the creek anywhere. You need to find somewhere. And I was sort of just scavenging around these trees and fucking the trees that had fallen down. I was trying to get away from that point. I didn't want to fucking hear how raging that water was, you know, and I kept looking and the only thing I could find was where a tree had come down the mountain and hadn't gone all the way down the mountain, and the debris that had come off the mountain had come up to it and made a bit of a slope, but it was a horrible drop off the side. But it was the only flat spot, and I fucking set the tent up and I sent a message out to my mate, SOS in the morning. And because I could only write these short messages. It was so fucking hard my hands were fucking frozen and waterlogged. And I wrote that little message. I'm like, SOS in the morning. And he wrote straight back. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yep, but I can't stay here, you know, and I can't get out. I was in a Because I looked, there was fucking no way out. There was no way up and over and around it. I couldn't go back the way I'd come, nothing. Anyway, I set up the tent, sleeping bag was drenched to the core. Everything in my pack was fucking saturated. And I do things so things don't get wet by putting them in dry bags, but the dry bags had failed, And the one thing I was sort of looking forward to was, at least I got a dry sleeping bag tonight. It's in a good dry bag. And it's like, nah.
What does that do to your mental state when you've done all these ridiculous things? Like you've jumped into things that 50-50 chances of surviving. You've reached a point where there's no moving forward, there's no moving back, there's nothing. You've hit something where, I know when we spoke about this, hitting SOS is something you never want to do. You never want to be in that situation, but it's also like a thing like, okay, I've admitted defeat sort of thing.
Yeah.
What does that do to your psyche? Like, what are you thinking at this moment? Are there tears? Because I'd be shattered.
Not at this point, because everything's, it's like going into a fight and then fucking sitting down. It's like you're still fighting, you're fighting for your life, and there's not a chance to have. I think I've had thoughts, I've definitely had those thoughts, about Kim and the kids, things like that. But there's not a time for tears yet, It's like fucking just got to keep fighting on. And everything, there was never a break. There was just, every second was a constant fight, And I think I didn't want to hit SOS that night, for starters. I thought to plan it and do it properly, you hit it just before light in the morning, and then, because it's supposed to be nearly immediate. And I definitely didn't want to do it. Like, I did not want to, there's a couple of reasons. First, I felt like I was giving up and admitting defeat. And the second thing was, you don't want to put anyone else's life in danger. I know those guys do that for a living. That's what they do. And I've spoken to some of them since then, and they fucking live for it. They're waiting for those calls. That's what they want to do. They're out to help people. But you still don't want to do it. And I was still trying to convince myself, no, there's another way out. And anyway, I set the tent up, blew the fucking mattress up, fucking got in there, went through my gear. All my gear was fucked. Everything was wet. And but the tent was still a shelter. It was still a good shelter. The sleeping bag was a synthetic sleeping bag, so it would still hold some of its heat properties. Once I got in there, if my body temperature would get up, that sleeping bag would try and hold some of it. And anyway, I had to sit big rocks on the side of that log so I wouldn't roll off during the night, because the tent went over that log off the edge a bit. And anyway, when I first laid down, I just remember thinking how fucking loud it was, because I could still hear that raging fucking waterfall, and that was the point that stopped me. It was like a fucking haunting sound all night. I remember it, as in, that's what stopped me. That fucking sound is what stopped me going, because it's such a big fall down there. And anyway, I was laying there, and fucking you hear debris coming off the mountain every now and then, like a rock going flying down. You'd hear it hit the fucking creek, pummel into the other rocks and the water and stuff like that. And I'm like, fucking, I hope one of them doesn't come and hit me. And because that, you'd just be fucking ended. You'd be there in the middle of nowhere. And then I ended up sleeping for a while, and it was just a massive adrenaline wear off, and it was a massive wear on my body for the whole fucking day. So I think the first hour or two, I just fell asleep flat out. And then I woke up, and I was sore as fuck. I thought my leg was broken in my arm. I couldn't move this leg, and I couldn't move this fucking arm at all. When I woke up, I literally couldn't move them. No pins and needles or nothing. It was like, fuck, no, it's fucking broken. I was telling my hand to come up, and it wouldn't come up.
So not even pain-wise, you can't move it because it hurts too much. It just doesn't.
Just couldn't move it.
Fuck.
Yeah. And I think I just badly bruised it in the end, or it could have been something else. But anyway, I woke up, and the fucking first thing I woke up and I thought about Kim and the kids. And it was almost like, because I hadn't got a message out to them. So they didn't know if I was in a shit situation. They didn't know that. I'd just been messaging a friend, and he's super switched on. And I knew that he wouldn't bring Kim and the kids unnecessary thoughts or anything like that. So I knew that, without saying it, I knew that he wouldn't have told them. But I thought every afternoon I messaged Kim, but my battery was so low on that GPS, I didn't want to waste any battery. So I literally wrote to my friend Antonio, SOS in the morning. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yes, but I won't be for long. And then I turned it off so I could save the batteries that hit SOS in the morning. And anyway, when I woke up at 11 or 12 o'clock at night and I thought about Kim and the kids, and then it got to me. And I started crying. Like, I'm like, nah, you're in a really bad situation. And I thought, if this leg's broken and this arm's not moving, I'm in a really bad situation, because I had plans to do things at first light, to get ready for the helicopter. And at that point, it would be emergency helicopter. It wouldn't be the commercial guy. And for one, I needed to find somewhere that they could come in and see me, and I wasn't in that, because I was sort of in like two fucking ravines. There was this ravine here that I'd been walking down, this creek, the whole time, and then I'd crossed up the top, and there was a tiny little ravine that come in there, and that's the tree that I was on the side of. And so I knew a helicopter wouldn't find me with ease in there. It's like fucking all big overpowering cliffs around both sides. And it was almost like it had to get to me anyway, because as soon as I was crying hysterically, like I was like, fuck, like you've really fucked up, I think Kim and the kids and it wasn't even about me at that point. It's about them. What are they going to feel when I'm gone? Like, how are they going to continue on, things like that. And me fucking whole body warmed up big time. I found out later that Kim woke up or was awake at like 11 or 12 o'clock, and she just started crying. Like, she thought about me. I haven't heard from Adam, and she just thought fucking something's wrong, and she started crying, And anyway, and then I fucking just had some harsh words to myself, a little, I don't know, fucking like how men are supposed to be, like fucking man up, like get on with it, like fuck it, get on with it. And I fucking sort of did. I sort of just, I'm not saying that's how to be. I'm not saying that's how we're supposed to do
in that situation.
I think humans are supposed to break down every now and then. I think people are supposed to cry and stuff like that and have those feelings.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to talk anyone out of that, but in that situation, it wasn't good for me.
No.
And then it was a little bit like fucking stop feeling sorry for yourself, and so I tried to get that leg and arm to move. They fucking wouldn't move, and I sort of just moved my body over and I laid another way for a little while and tossed and turned, and then I started at some point, I think it was after that, I nodded off back to sleep for a while, and I just fucking woke up and just straight away went into full quiver, and like my fucking body just took over. Every part of my body was just full quiver, and there, my fucking lips, my mouth, everything. And have you ever been to that point? Or have you ever felt that?
No.
It's the fucking most horrible, awkward situation. Feels foreign. It feels like what I imagine it feels like through a stage of death. So the first thing to do is you tense up and you're like, fucking stop. Like, fucking don't do that. Like, and you can stop it. And then I stopped it and I was like, fuck. And I'm like, you fucking idiot. That's your body trying to fucking keep itself warm. And it was, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Your body starts quivering flat out to try and keep because if your core temperature drops down too much.
That's why you shiver,
You're in trouble. So I'm like, fucking let it go. So I started relaxing, and then, I fucking quivered till fucking 4, 5 in the morning. And that's about an hour or so before first light. It's still fucking raining. It never stopped raining the whole time. Got the fucking EPIRB out. I had to go outside, like out into the open for that. So I'm standing out there in the rain. I can hardly fucking see. And I pull it out and I'm like, fuck, do you want to do this? Fuck. And it took ages, and I'm like, you've got to do this, man. You've got to do this, and it's not just hitting the button. You open the side up, got a good signal first, open the side up, hit the button. And then it says hold in for 10 minutes. And I'm like, you fucking cunt. Like, it was bad enough pressing it. Just happened to press it. No, 10 seconds.
I was going to say, fuck.
Fucking 10 minutes. And I'm fucking holding it, and I'm like, you fucking, I can't believe I'm doing this, And anyway, then it comes up that it's SOS in progress, and I'm like, there was like this feeling straight away of like, oh, fuck, okay, I've done it. I'm going to come in and be rescued, because everyone, it's like 20 minutes they're there and they're rescued. Anyway, it's fucking there. And at that point, it was, because I'm a massive one for not littering and leaving anything behind, And at that point, everything was staying. The tent was staying, everything was staying. I was fucking not in a good way. My leg was working again, had my arm working. I was fucking sore, had sore ribs. And that's why I think I just maybe bruised or compressed the bone really bad in one of my falls, because when I woke up in the morning, it was like immediately, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, they're working. And once I got them moving, then they were fine. And but anyway, everything was fucking staying there, mate. I had that wet sleeping bag over the top of me, and I was sitting out on a rock, and I was still quivering flat out. And I had that bright mattress that I said fucking orange to flag them down. And I was just fucking huddled there for fucking ages, and it just kept raining and raining. And I was like peering back into like where that tree was falling down, looking at the tent. I'm like, fucking leaving all that shit behind. Like, it's fucking not good. And then the SOS thing comes up again, and it says, it's not been received. And I'm like, fucking what? And so I'm looking at it. And then my buddy Antonio, he's like, you need to hit the SOS button. And I'm like, I have. And once you hit it once, you can't hit it again.
Right.
It's on the screen. It's locked on the screen. I tried pressing it in again. It does nothing. I tried other stuff. It does nothing. It just says SOS in progress. Then it says it has not been received. And he's like, you need to hit the button. I'm like, I have. And he's like, mate, they won't come and pick you up unless you hit the button. That's their protocol. And I'm like, I fucking have hit the button. And then I didn't know what to do. And I was sort of frustrated, even though it was no one's fault really except for my own. I was sort of fucking pissed off, you know, and I'm like, fuck, this is it. Like, I felt bad. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel healthy at that point. And I sat there for a while, and then I was just like, I messaged him back a couple of times, and then I'm like, no, I'm fucking on my own. Fuck it. And then I'm like, oh, fuck it. And then I took the sleeping bag off. I was just walking around the rain. I'm like, I'm going to fucking build a helicopter pad here. Because a commercial helicopter needs to land. They don't have a winch to pick you up. And I'm going to start collecting bits of debris, and I'm going to stick it under these rocks here and try and let it dry. And I'm fucking going to get all the rubbish out of my pack. I'll burn me tent if I have to, the whole fucking lot. I know, the biggest fucking fire ever, you know. And I started I had to get busy. That's the thing, you know. And I did. I started fucking getting rocks, and I started building up a helicopter pad. Fucking rocks would come flying off the mountain past me from up the top. Fucking started collecting timber. I got all my rubbish. I stuck it all in there. And then I sent my buddy one more message, and I'm like, when the weather clears, if the commercial helicopter can pick me up, that'd be awesome. Otherwise, we need to do something else. I'm not in a good way. Dead. It went dead. And then I was like, yeah, that's it. I've got fucking nothing then. I've got nothing now, you know. And then I fucked around. I thought, fuck it. I'm going to pack my backpack. I'm going to put that tar in there, and I'm going to collect all my gear. And I went through. Climbed back over there to where that tree was. I packed up all my gear. I fucking stayed busy. I was nearly at the point I was going to light that fire. I was going to light my rubbish on fire, and anything else in my pack that was flammable, and get a decent fire going, you know. Because I needed something to lift my spirits. I needed something to fucking get my body temperature warm again, things like that. And then I hear, and I fucking look down the valley, and it was fucking the craziest sight, because that helicopter's big and yellow, eh? And there's just this fucking really aggressive terrain like this, these big mountains that come into one another, and there's like the rest of the river and that down there. And you just see this fucking beautiful big yellow helicopter coming up. It just fucking comes up, and the dude's like, out the side, he's like, and I give him the thumbs up. I'm like, holy fuck. Like, fuck. And then they turned around, they flew off. And I was like, oh, fucking hopefully they're coming back. I had a look at the situation, and then I picked up that rubbish. I fucking started packing up all that again, put that mattress away. I was fucking just sitting there. I was just huddled up with my backpack. I wanted to do everything right still, you know. And then, yeah, they fucking flew back in because of the terrain. They had to drop everything off pretty much, except for especially when they seen that I was all right and I gave them the thumbs up. They didn't need the stretcher and all that extra weight. They flew back in, they fucking dropped down off the winch, and he said, you know, like, give me directions, you're on the way up, and he fucking hooked me up. And I just remember that thing plucked me off the ground like it was fucking a fixed item. That's how hardcore those helicopters are, or how good the pilots are. It was like, I did not fucking move. It just fucking grabbed me, and the winch took me straight up, steady as fuck. And then I got in there, and I was like, holy fuck. The other thing was when I got in there, even that extra height, when I looked around, I was like, I was not going anywhere. And the co-pilot or whoever the dude is, he said his exact words, "How the fuck did you get there?" And I'm like, "Mate, I come from the top." And he's like, "Oh my," he's like, and then anyway, they winched my gear in. I had all my gear and that. They grabbed it all. And then the other guy hopped in and he said the same thing. He's like, "I don't know how you got there, mate." I'm like, "Mate, I slept there last night up there." And anyway, the whole time I was like, fuck, like I bet you the river was just there, and if I got to the main river, it would have been. And we fucking just kept flying down through that canyon, dude. It was like, wasn't going to be fucking good. Anyway, I got out. They're like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Mate, I feel fine. I couldn't move my arm or leg earlier this morning, but they're fucking fine now." And he's like, "Do you want to go back to your car or the hospital?" Like, "Just get me back to the car, and if I need to go to the hospital, I'll book myself in,
Yeah, good attitude.
And then, anyway, he dropped me back at the car, and everything was fine. I got out, fucking had my backpack, got to the car, and opened up the boot, put my backpack in the boot, and my back just went fucking, my back gave out on me big time, like I had to take a breath sort of thing. I was like, fucking what? Must have to straighten it, and my fucking back was fucked. And then I drove to a friend's place at Lake Hawea. Stayed there for a couple of nights. My back was still fucked. Flew home to Australia and went in, and I'd bruised like 2 or 3 of my vertebrae on one of those falls. And that's why my back was fucked. It's fine now. It's come good. But it gave me hell for like 2 months after the trip. And anyway, with that SOS device, the problem was they got the signal, but they didn't get my GPS coordinates. And it was a massive fuck up on their behalf at this point. Because protocol is they go back and look at your other messages that they sent. They can just go straight in, they can look at everything you've done. And all those other messages that I was sending out was me hiking down, talking to Antonio, so they knew my position. But because they never got my position, they never come and rescued me at all. It was Antonio rallying with a local helicopter pilot, that one that was originally going to pick me up, with the local authorities that they sent out a rescue flight from New Zealand without my SOS call to come and get me.
I never got it.
Nope.
Fuck.
So if it wasn't for that, it could have ended a lot worse. Because I could have got to the point you make silly decisions in those situations where you're like, no, actually I can climb down. I need to get down. I'm fucking going to die here.
Yeah.
I'm going to die here. I need to get down. You fucking fall and you're dead. So fucked.
You're a fucking crazy man.
Fucked.
And this is what you do.
Yeah.
This is your thing.
I'd go back in a heartbeat.
I know.
I'm going back in a heartbeat.
I know you are. When are you going back?
I'll go back this year.
Fuck me dead. Don't do it.
Twice.
Just come on holidays with me
just
to fucking the Goldie or something.
Yeah. Fuck the Gold Coast. It's probably fucking worse.
No, you're right.
Yeah. One time I went up there with Kim and the kids, and they were going to somewhere to eat, and I had one of my trucks at the time, and it was a little bit too high, so I couldn't park under any of the low car parks.
Yeah.
And so I drove around looking for a car park for fucking 2 hours. They went in, ate dinner, and come back out, picked them up, and we went somewhere else. Fuck the Gold Coast.
I mean, I wanted to talk about a lot of things tonight, things like the vegan stuff and all that type of stuff, but I think just talking about those trips of yours, like it just blows people's minds to think that is someone's way of life.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's a big group of people that do that type of shit,
hell
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Like for fun, you literally get dropped out in the middle of nowhere and trek.
Yeah.
It just seems so foreign to me.
Yeah, I mean,
hunting is foreign to me.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people in Australia, hunting is foreign.
Seems so weird that hunting's foreign.
Yeah.
Foreign. Because
we all eat meat, and yet hunting is
most
foreign.
of us eat meat, but
the good ones anyway.
People don't like hunting.
Yeah.
And we all used to hunt.
Yeah.
At least our ancestors, we all used to hunt. And then it's like, I try and keep my mouth closed on some of this stuff, but I'll let it open for you.
Thank you.
But it's, like a domestic pig's got a life because it's got a use, right? It's in demand. And a dairy cow gets to have a life because we eat dairy. So if we take those things away, who the fuck's going to want to have those animals? They wouldn't even exist. So there'd be no such thing as a domestic pig. There'd be no fucking sheep. There'd be none of that stuff. They actually get a life and get to live a life You know,
They serve a
And
purpose.
it's just about managing things correctly then. You know, so if someone's got a fucking cow and it's in a little cage and it's getting fed a fucking drip, no, that's not fucking right. No one's ever going to agree with that unless it's the person that's making money off it. That's the fucking it. You know, and no one agrees with that. You know, and if you look at hunters are taking animals in the most ethical way, you know, and I don't just mean ethically as in it was a clean kill, you know, I mean ethically as well as in it's an animal that's lived a life. You know, that's how I always feel best. Like, I'll go out and shoot a buck, and you know that deer's like lived its whole life out in the wild.
Never seen a human.
Fucking never seen a human. Never been put through a set of races and pushed into an abattoirs or anything like that. So there's the best form of it right there, you know. And it comes back to being a little bit selfish because then people are like, oh, and you put an effort in as well. But fuck, it ain't about that. It's just about it was taken in a good situation. Yes, hunters do put a better effort in. You know, and it gives you a better connection and everything to your food, you know. But then there's the next step. The next, probably the best way is how we farm in Australia. Everything's free ranging. You know, they get to walk all over the fucking countryside. Like,
this is something you
we
said
don't
to me-
have sheep in a little pen.
This is something you said to me recently about factory farming and all that type of stuff. Can you clarify? Because I went to talk about it in the video and I couldn't quite remember what you said. But there's no animals that are caged.
No. Well, if we had to buy a cage for every sheep, it would then be not profitable, right?
Yes.
So in Australia, how they do their farming, and also it's to the best standards as well, is they're in a massive big paddock where they walk around and they do what they want. And if you've ever seen animals, they only care about like 2 or 3 things. It's fucking eating, sleeping, and fucking reproducing. Like watch them. Even if you give a sheep, it can open up your fucking house, open up your, you know, the back lawn, fucking open up everything, have a PlayStation there for it, the whole fucking lot. You know what it's going to do? Fucking eat the grass. Yeah. That's what they do. That's their life.
This is the argument from a lot of vegans, that these animals are sentient and they're very intelligent and all these type of things. And in reality, they are prey animals.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of the situation. That's the world we live in. Yeah. Unfortunately, for those animals, they just happen to be eaten.
But that's their purpose. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's why they are there.
Yeah.
That's why they reproduce. To be
100%. They still need to be treated right.
Of course.
You know, and they still need to fucking live their little lives, you know, which they fucking do in Australia, and that's what I'm saying. There's no cows that are locked up in a pen in Australia. There's no pigs that are locked up in a tiny little pen, you know. Yeah, I think the farming standards are really good. So there's the next best meat to go and buy. You know, when you go and buy meat that's fucking, you know, treated well like that. And like I said, that's their life. That's how they live. That's how they want to live. Fucking just like, you know, these cows, when no one's buying just one pen for a cow and then it's fed a dripper, it just doesn't get done. Not here anyway. But if you're watching the worst of the worst, I'll show you a video from some other country where that is. My sister was going vegan for a little while. And she's like, well, what about this video? And she showed me this video. I'm like, that ain't Australia.
No.
Like, you've lived in the bush. You know, we grew up in a like a sort of rural setting. Have you ever seen that? And then she was like, nah. And I'm like, because we don't do it like that, you know. And the reason that animal's here today and living and breathing and has a life is because of farming, you know, human demand. Yeah.
Well, that's another one that I wanted to ask you about was, how does an animal die? Not when you harvest one, but how does it die if it lives its entire life?
Well, if it lives its entire life, this is a full life, their teeth start to get too low. They can't get the nutrients that they need every day, so they start going, what we say is backwards, but they start like losing health. And then eventually their system starts to shut down. They lay down and they die, or they get eaten on the way.
So they just starve.
Basically, yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
The wild's, like, you know, we talk about this, the Nature is Metal page.
Yeah.
Like, that is probably I think if there's any vegan out there that's like, oh, you know, we shouldn't eat meat because it's cruel, check out Nature is Metal.
Oh, yeah.
Because that Instagram 100%. Page is literally just...
I've struggled with, why aren't these people like picketing against like a lion that's fucking dragging something down and eating it?
Yeah.
You know, like where's, you know, it's almost like a form of racism, I reckon.
It is. It's speciesism. It's speciesm. You see these fucking hyenas and all these animals. Like there's one the other week with a buffalo running through the water, and I think a crocodile gets a hold of it and just rips its guts out from its stomach, and then it starts running, and all its other guts start falling out. And the hyenas come in and start eating an arsehole first.
Yep.
They don't give a fuck if you know, they do not give a fuck.
The best thing about humans is we have a compassion inside of us, and we can have ethics that we know, like, okay, before we eat an animal, we really need to kill it humanely.
Yeah.
Right? Animals, they don't have that. So they're like, especially if they're desperate, they don't give a fuck if the thing's still fucking living and breathing and grunting and they're eating it from the arse in.
Yeah.
They don't care. There's not that thought, you know. So I always say the best hunter there is out of all the species is a human, because we'll kill something ethically. And like, it's fucking going down the deep one now, but in a sense it's selfish, even those thoughts, because they're just making us feel better. The animal's going to fucking die. None of that matters. It's dead and done. But we'll still go the extra effort to go, let's make sure it's killed humanely first and stuff like that.
And the argument for vegans is, well, why can't we just kill other humans?
Because it's illegal.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's the easy. That's the
because
easiest.
Other humans have those fucking feelings. You know, that's the thing. Other humans have those feelings, whereas I've fucking seen animals just leave their young.
Yeah.
Like, I've just seen them leave their young. We're done with it. We're done. We had a cow do that last year. Had its calf, and then all of a sudden it just decided it didn't want to look after the calf anymore, and we end up having to take the calf on and raise it. So yeah, it's fucking butt.
And that's the thing about you and getting to know your family, is like, you care about wildlife more than any vegan I've ever met. Yeah. Like, I think it was it you or Kim pulled along the side of the road and found a joey and a dead kangaroo's, two of them. Yeah. And you just take it home, help it get back to health, and then you drop it off at a wildlife sanctuary. Yep. What vegans doing that?
I fucking don't.
Cocksuckers. Fucking cocksuckers.
Yeah, I think I said before, they're not all cocksuckers.
Most of them are cocksuckers. Most of them avoid meat just to suck a big old dick.
Yeah. Everything's so complex, eh? Like, there's no one answer, you know.
No.
There's what suits you mightn't suit me, you know. And that's why the countries usually run shit too, because, you know, one group of people won't do what suits everyone. You know, it's like, there's decisions made, particularly a lot of decisions in the last few years that are made from the city that affect people in the country that fucking does not suit them one bit, you know. And it's like, how can you have one man running the country, you know, like Trump, you know, not saying he runs it by himself, but it's like, he will never ever keep everyone happy. No. Because the people are too diverse. Like, it's too complicated, you know. And hunting's one of those things where it's so complicated as well that from someone looking in, it looks fucking horrible. But if you're on the in, like me as a hunter, it looks completely different. You know, we are very compassionate about animals, but we're very real as well that, like, this is our source of food, you know. And if you look at the whole system, you know, and it stems back to what I said before, like, that animal wouldn't exist if it wasn't for human consumption. That animal wouldn't even get a life to start with. The fact that there is a demand for beef on the market means there's more cattle that are getting to have a life. So if you look at it from that perspective, that the best part of the circle is that we do eat those animals at a stage in their life, because then we're going to want more to reproduce and have more animals.
And what I should have said at the start with this whole podcast really is that you kill these animals, you take their life, but you were taking their meat, their energy, and feeding yourself with it. It's not like you just take it, kill it, take a photo of it, and then you get your Instagram likes, and that's it.
And the other thing, this is going down the deep path as well, is a certain amount of that animal goes back to the earth, right? Because the stomach and the bones and maybe the hide, maybe some of the meat's left there, that it literally goes back into fertilizing the earth. You know, I say this, I was going to get a t-shirt made actually. It says fucking the world is the ultimate predator, and it's just got the world on there with a fucking big set of jaws, because the world's going to eat every one of us.
Eventually that energy will be reclaimed by the soil.
Yeah.
Except for us with the embalming and all this type of shit.
Except for that.
But you know,
that's why I say to Kim, fucking don't throw me in a casket when I die.
I know. We said this the other night at dinner, which was an interesting dinner conversation.
I think it's one path that the human race went majorly wrong on that actually affects the earth. Because I think if something dies, be it a person or whatever, It should sit on the surface. The animals should eat from it. They shit back into the world, and the rest goes back into the world, whether it be parasites, grubs, bugs, whatever, and refertilizes the earth, you know. So I'm just like, just fucking leave me out in the bush or on top of the mountain, and just, it don't matter. It doesn't matter, does it? It fucking doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You're dead. But that idea, people thinking about the death process, that's what terrifies people. But if like in Aboriginal cultures, you told me once, you know, it was just the normal thing to do, is just to leave your person who's passed away out in the wilderness for something to eat.
Yeah.
If that was what we did on a normal basis, then we just do it.
Yeah.
But that's not. And over years and a period of time, we've decided that that's weird, that's disgusting, that's not how us civilized people do it. Then that's not okay. And now this is what we do. We pump ourselves full of all these chemicals so that we don't decompose, so we can stay good and smell good for our funeral. Which is weird.
It's so fucking weird.
It's a weird thing.
It's so weird. It's so weird that it's made death harder to take on now.
Sure.
I reckon.
To accept.
Yeah, I think the older people, you know, the ancients, they understood death a lot better and just accepted it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's fucking true. Like, if it doesn't terrify you, then it should. But the fact is that it's just fucking part of life, isn't it? You know, and people coming and going, and I think about it all the time. You know, I've got someone very close to me at the moment that's dying, you know, and it's just like, makes you think about it, and it sort of makes you also realize that most shit doesn't fucking matter. You know, it's just, we're all going to be fucking gone, you know, but it's just accepting it in another way, you know. It's like, no, well, fucking, this is how it happens. This is how it happens in the animal kingdom, and we're part of the animal kingdom. Why can we accept it so much better from, say, somewhere like out in the wilds in Africa? That's just what's happening.
People refuse
but we struggle to accept it here.
They refuse to believe that we're animals. And they think that we've taken this point where we've gone from being primates and now we're just this incredibly infinite, intelligent species, and we rule the world and all that type of stuff. And in many ways we do, and in many ways we don't. We look at this stuff with this coronavirus at the moment. People are freaking out about that because these little bugs that we can't see threaten to tear down the very fabric of our relationship with the earth. It's just how the earth has always worked and how civilization works. Something comes along and it eats something else.
Yeah.
Destroys it.
Yeah.
And on that positive note, thanks for coming on, brother. I appreciate that.
Worries.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for a fantastic podcast. What would you like to plug? Down the barrel of that camera?
Fucking nothing.
Oh, bullshit.
No.
Where can people see you?
Nowhere. They've seen enough of me. They can see me on Instagram, just adam.greentree, but
Beautiful.
yeah, I
Thanks,
don't care
mate.
if they do or not.
Oh, fuck you. If you want to
Fuck you.
cocksucker.
I'm thinking about going off the grid, actually.
Really?
Yeah, fuck it.
Why?
I don't know, something different to do. Sick of people talking to me.
Because you get a lot of death threats too. People come after you all the
I
time.
don't anymore, eh? I think I thinned them out. I fucking used to have some rippers. People were going to come in and rape me kids and fucking all this sort of shit. Just because they don't understand, you know, the human race is pretty narrow-minded.
All that because you're hunting.
Yeah. But they're probably at a restaurant that night fucking cutting up a big steak.
See, I don't agree with killing deer. And I've told you this. Because they look like greyhounds. And I've got a greyhound. And I just can't.
That's that narrow-mindedness.
It
I was
is.
just talking about.
You've got a photo with a big deer, you know, you're going to eat, you're going to have your venison, laughing, you've put effort into hunting it. And I'm like, wow. And then I look over and I got my beautiful little greyhound there with a little slender face looking at me, going, what's for dinner, Dad?
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck you, Greentree. But then again, I see you kill a tar or a sheep or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, cool, nice.
Cool. Yeah, funny.
That's the way we are, I guess.
Yeah, I think you just make a connection with certain things, don't you? You know, and then so that's most of the. I understand most of the animal rights stuff. I do. Like I'm not saying that's right, but I understand where it comes from. You know, because I'm the same. Fuck, I love animals, dude.
Yeah, of course.
I love animals. You know, and then it's just like, you know, well, I love those animals. How could you possibly kill them? You know, they've got a life as well and stuff like that. And it's just because it's just part of this whole circle. You know.
Yeah.
It's what needs to happen for everything to keep going around.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam Greentree, ladies and gentlemen, what a guy. What a beautiful man. It's fucking terrifying, man. I've got some extreme panic attacks happening at the moment inside my own body. Ladies and gentlemen, what an episode. If you want to catch more of this, make sure you subscribe. Check us out on iTunes and Spotify as well. The Butterfield Effect Clips channel. If you can't watch this entire episode, if you got halfway through Adam's story and freaked the fuck out like we all did sitting in here, and you want to just watch it in little clips form, check out that. The link is down below. I am in Melbourne as well, coming up for the Melbourne Comedy Festival. If you want to check me out there, the brand new hour. Holy shit, it's going to get me instant strife. So I'm looking forward to debuting that. And Connor, is there anything else? That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Peace to the Middle East. Be a good motherfucker. Me dick stinks. Adam, anything else?
No, thanks for having me on, man.
My pleasure. Goodbye.
Goodbye.